Well, you could certainly say that Wall Street got investors fed up. Something else has Charlie Gasparino fed up, and that would be the Fed, as in the Federal Reserve. You putting a lot of the blame on them?
I would say a lot of the blame. You know, listen, part of the blame is like not deserved, because why did the Fed keep interest rates so low, print all that money, which is part of the reason why we have what we have today? Well, it did so because we didn't have good fiscal policy coming out of the Obama administration, so they needed to stimulate the economy some way. But, you know, right now, when you stimulate too much, right, you create asset bubbles, and at some point you got to raise rates. And look when they have to raise rates now. They probably have to raise it at least in December. I still think they might do September. Why do they have to do that? They have to do that because there's asset bubbles out there. You got to get you got to normalize interest rates at some point. Even though Wall Street is losing money, you need Main Street to make some money. A lot of Main Street has their money in the bank or in these other investments. And here's the other thing. They're doing this, and here's where it gets tricky, when the global economy is slowing down. They have to do it at the worst possible time.
Do you think that Janet Yellen, head of the Fed, was actually bailing out Barack Obama, the economy?
Well, it wasn't just her. It was Ben Bernanke. I mean, and by the way, they did it.
Did she succumb to political influence? Did the Federal Reserve say, okay, President Obama, we'll finance this. We'll chuck out the money. We'll do it.
I think the Fed well, I don't think it's that direct. I mean, listen, they know they can read charts. The economy has never been that strong. It's following the financial collapse. President Obama, probably at the margin, more than at the margins, President Obama made it worse by installing Obamacare, raising taxes, and all those regulations. In the face of those headwinds, there was one game in town. It was called the Fed, and it was called printing money. And they knew it. And, you know, listen, remember, Janet Yellen wasn't his first pick. It was actually Larry Summers who was his first pick, who was marginally more hawkish than she is.
We're stuck in a corner. Because if the Federal Reserve does raise interest rates, surely that is a problem. Right. If it doesn't raise interest rates, it keeps the party going a little bit longer, but the end point is worse by keeping it going longer.
And it's still a problem. I mean, there are parts of the market where there's bubbles that need to be flattened out, need to be normalized. Stock market probably shouldn't be trading at 18,000, right? I mean, you know.
Well, should Janet Yellen stand up, make a statement and say, you know, we'll change our policy and interest rates when the world market allows us to do it? I mean, it's inconceivable that they would do that.
I don't think she'd ever say that. I think she'll say we'll change our interest rate policy when we have to, when the data confirms it. She won't base it on the markets. They never do, even though the markets do play a role.
Do you think we'll get any kind of move from President Obama, any kind of statement to say, we've got this thing in hand, we can do this, this, and this?
You know, President Obama will turn this into some sort of political gambit. He'll probably put forth another stimulus package like the last one and call for spending another $800 billion on projects that never get built. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But I guarantee he does something along those lines.
All right, Gaspo, most of the blame with the Fed. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Thanks, Charlie. Fresh off reports that Joe Biden had met with Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, California Governor Jerry Brown says the vice president should give it serious consideration. But looking at these markets, the Weekly Standard's Daniel Halper says that could change the vice president's mind. What do you think there, Daniel, that it's such a negative, the economy and the markets, you don't want to be going into an election with that round your neck?
Well, let's first stipulate we don't know exactly what this is, right? It's been a bad couple days. It could get a lot worse, and if it continues to stay bad, or I fear say it, a recession, that could be bad for the party in power, the Democratic Party. Keep in mind, 2008, John McCain, he lost for several reasons, but one of them being the bad recession that we were coming off of, or in the middle of, in the 2008 election. It's very hard to win the next time when your party is in power and you're not doing, and the economy isn't doing well.
But supposing you turn it around and say this is Wall Street's fault all over again. You play the wicked banker card. That's not out of the question, is it?
Not at all, but it's a little harder for Joe Biden to play it than it is for somebody like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. I think if this continues badly, it really does give an opening for somebody extreme in the liberal side of the Democratic Party to really come through. I think obviously it helps the Republicans because they're not in power. It also helps the liberal, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. They can really make it into something. It's really hard for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. They've been working for Barack Obama the last few years, not Hillary Clinton most recently. I think they take some of the blame for what's going on in the country, and likewise some of the credit if things turn around and we really do have a great recovery.
Well, listen to this, Daniel. We have Senator Sanders making a statement, a comment on the possibility of Joe Biden making a run. Roll tape.
Do you sense that vulnerability? Well, I think the evidence is pretty clear. We are gaining, and I think what the polls seem to indicate is that Hillary Clinton's support seems to be receding a bit. But we've got a long way to go. Joe would be a formidable opponent.
That was kind of tepid. He didn't exactly sort of say don't run, but he's sort of saying watch out if you do run.
Well, what is he supposed to do? Come out and endorse him, right? I mean, he's his potential opponent, so you can't blame him for hedging a little bit and being a little careful.
I mean, he's been very mild. If the market action and the economic action justifies a run from the left, he's been very mild about pushing his case against the slightly more centrist Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden.
Well, I have been surprised. Bernie Sanders has shown a lot of patience in this. He hasn't come out swinging as hard as he can. I mean, it might suggest he is playing a long game, and he's able to sort of game this out appropriately so that he can be sustainable and peak at the right time. It's not necessarily crazy, although it's not quite clear why he's not taking advantage of it. Again, this is early. We don't know exactly what's going on. Is this a slight market correction, or is this a sign of really bad things to come? We don't exactly know. That's going to dictate really how this affects politics. But you'd rather be sort of Donald Trump in this situation. You'd rather be Elizabeth Warren, people who have been warning against this current system, even from the right and from the left, than I think some of the establishment people who have been playing in the middle of this for such a long period of time.
Daniel Halper, thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Jeb Bush at the border today, pushing his plan. How does it stack up against Trump's? We're on it next.